Hey everybody, we are going to continue reading The Enormous Egg by Oliver Butterworth. I know we read a little bit of this in class last week, but I want to reread some so that we can refresh our memories a little bit. I'm going to start when Nate is telling us all about his busy day. Here we go. Well, I really had my hands full. First thing in the morning, I'd tear out to the hen coop and turn over the egg. By now, we had the nest all fixed up in a corner of the hen house, fenced off so it was nice and private. I'd give the hen some scratch feed and fill her water pan. Then, on the way back to the house, I'd taken an armful of stove wood from the shed, and by that time it would be late enough so I could bring old Ezekiel up from the cellar and put in him the chicken yard. After that, I was supposed to milk the goat, but Cynthia said she'd do that for me since the big egg was such a lot of trouble. That was pretty nice of her, I'll have to admit, because she doesn't like milking too much. After breakfast, Cynthia would help Mom in the kitchen, and I would go down to the print shop with Pop. If it was newspaper day, I'd help Mr. Simmons wrap up papers for mailing, and then I'd deliver papers around town on my bike. Other days, I might sweep up slugs of type lying around on the floor and melt them down in the iron pot. Then, afterwards, I'd pick up Joe Champigny, who lives across the street from us, and we'd go down to Loon Lake fishing. But every few hours, I would come back and turn over that egg. I wasn't going to take any chances. One morning, about a week later, a man came into the house and wanted to see the egg. He said he was from the newspaper in Laconia, and they wanted to run a story on the big egg that our hen had laid. I took him out to the nest, and he took some pictures and asked questions. He poked the egg with his finger, and the hen nipped at him. He wasn't too pleased about that, and went off sucking his finger. A while after that, two men came from the Christian Science Monitor down in Boston. They said they'd seen something in the press about a hen that laid an enormous egg up in Freedom, and they wanted to know and they wanted to do a piece on it, because their newspaper was always interested in a miraculous thing like that. They took pictures of the egg and the hen and Ezekiel and one of my sisters feeding the chickens, as if she ever did that, and they asked all kinds of questions. They wanted to know why we called the rooster Ezekiel and what the circulation of the Freedom Centennial was and how many people lived in Freedom and all sorts of things that didn't have anything to do with the egg. Then they measured the egg with a tape and weighed it on some hand scales they brought with them. It was 15 inches around the narrow way, and it weighed 3 pounds and a quarter. The men stayed to lunch and had 2 helpings of pie. The next week, my Aunt Grace sent us a clipping from the Monitor. She lives down in Keene and teaches high school there. The clipping had a big picture of my sister feeding the hens and a small picture of the egg. Underneath the picture, there was this article. Excuse me. Here's that article, titled Mammoth Egg Laid in Freedom. Freedom, New Hampshire, June 24th. Freedom, New Hampshire may be a small town, but it sure can produce a big egg. A hen belonging to the Walter Twitchell family of this town recently laid an egg which may turn out to be the largest hen's egg in history. Their hen laid this astonishing egg on June 16th. Mr. Twitchell declared, "She had shown some signs of uneasiness before laying the remarkable egg, which measures almost 1.5 feet around and weighs nearly 3.5 pounds. Mr. and Miss Twitchell have 2 children, a girl, Cynthia, 10, and a boy, Nathan, aged 12. Mr. Twitchell is the owner and editor of the Freedom Centennial, a country newspaper with a circulation of about 800. The family has decided to let the hen sit on the egg in hopes that it will hatch out. Mr. Twitchell admits that he does not know what will come out of the egg. Something surprising, Mr. Twitchell guesses. Well, the 3 weeks were finally up. That's the time it takes for a hen's egg to hatch out, in case you didn't know. But nothing happened. I kept going out to the nest every little while all day long, but nothing doing. Pop went out 3 times after supper. No luck. I must have looked pretty glum, and Mom said not to worry. Maybe an egg this size needed more time than a regular one. A whole week went by this way, and even Mom didn't seem to have much hope for it anymore. Pop looked really discouraged. I think he'd kind of set his heart on that egg hatching out almost as much as I had. One evening, after a whole month had gone by, he looked at me for a while with his face sort of screwed up. "Nate," he said, "you counted on that egg hatching out, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, I had." "And you've worked hard all this time taking care of the egg, and feeding the hen especially, and now it almost looks as if you wouldn't have anything to show for your pains, doesn't it?" I nodded, but I didn't say anything. He walked over to me and put his hand on my shoulder. "Well, Nate, I guess we have to expect a certain amount of hard luck every now and then, and we just have to take it. After all, it was pretty amazing just to find an egg like that, even if it doesn't hatch out." "What are you going to do with it?" Mom wanted to know. "Well, it isn't strictly fresh anymore," Pop said. "I suppose we might give it to some museum. They could preserve it somehow and put a card on it saying that it was a gift of Nathan Twitchell of Freedom New—" "I don't want to give it to a museum yet," I said. "I want to be sure about it first. It might be a 5-week egg. You never can tell about something like this. It's not like an ordinary egg." "But how long are you going to wait?" Cynthia said. "Are you just going to go on taking care of that old egg all summer? Remember, Pop said he was going to take us camping up in Freedom Notch sometime this summer." Pop sat down on the sofa and stretched out his legs. "Now, Nate," he said, "you deserve a lot of credit for keeping at this thing the way you have. Just don't try to follow a lost cause further than it's worth, will you?" "Oh, no," I said, but I guess I was more disappointed than I let on. Just to myself, I decided that I would give that egg 1 more week, and if nothing happened, then, well, that would be the end of it. So that is the end of chapter 2.